This is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast, hosted by Roman Prokopchuk, bringing you all things digital marketing, tech, business, and motivation. What's stopping you from becoming relentless in all aspects of life? Are you ready to become a digital savage? Let's get into today's episode.
Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast. Today I have with me Cameron MacPherson. Cameron is a technologist and futurist who is passionate about social advancement. His primary project is The Next Giant Leap, which promotes open source blueprints for systems that can solve resource scarcity and climate change. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Roman. Glad to be here.
Thanks for jumping on. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
So this project started about 8 years back when I was having a discussion with a few lawyer friends of mine about, why we spend so much money and resources on, war and conflict and things like that. And it kind of just, hit us that this is all really over resources. And, a lot of our positions globally and conflicts throughout history have really been for resource acquisition. And even though I work in technology as a software developer, my background academically is in humanities, where I focus a lot on war crimes. And it just realized, it kind of just hit me that we really have the technical means today to solve the underlying drive for resource acquisition, which is basically, we create alliances with foreign nations or, engage in conflicts with them for an easy acquisition of resources. And I build large-scale information systems for a living, and I just couldn't get it out of my head that why hadn't we done this? Why hadn't we use the technical means that we've done to, say, like communication to evolve, from the pen and paper or printing press to like cell phones and internet and things like that? Why haven't we done that with resources and energy technologies? And as I kept diving deeper into it, I realized that the capabilities at our fingertips were actually far and away greater than I thought they were. And the Next Giant Leap project was created in a way that would kind of provide blueprints for how we could deploy energy technologies in kind of a strategic format, a system that would allow it to kind of operate greater than the sum of its parts and generate enough energy, clean energy at a low enough cost that we could cost effectively synthesize what I believe are the 5 critical resources for our civilization. And that's water, food, fuel, electricity, and building materials. And the project is kind of walks you through an A to Z breakdown of how that can be achieved, how it can be funded, and it's kind of put into to borrow a term from the software industry, into kind of an open source capacity. So nothing's really patented. It's not this, special box or like special system that you have to buy from anyone. Most of these technologies, in fact, all of them exist today. And it's really kind of the overarching strategy of how we go about it that really kind of makes it happen. And that has been just that journey arc from the start. And it kind of ended up here in the project that exists today.
That's awesome. And kind of, in the beginning of your career, even when you were younger, is technology and, development something you wanted to get into, especially something that was cause-based?
There are definitely passions that I've wanted to integrate technology and kind of social science to. It kind of cut my teeth in that regards, working for anti-poaching foundations out in East Africa. Not on the ground, not in the field, but building their information systems, their payment systems, as a technology consultant for equipment used in the field and things and things of that nature, which really kind of lit a little bit of a fire under me. It was kind of just amazing of what we were able to accomplish, even though I'd never actually been on the continent. And it creates a sense of purpose that you really don't get from getting a paycheck, if that makes sense. It gives you more of a value and appreciation for what you can do if you invest time in it. And it validated a sense of drive that, if you continue working at this, if you continue swinging that hammer enough times, it might take 50,000 swings, but 500 a day, they add up. And you can eventually create something that, is capable of, if not achieving the goal that you set out, but it does create a stepping stone to get further towards that goal. And that's something tangible and inspiring, and definitely keeps you going.
Yeah, I agree. So what motivates you to succeed?
It's almost, sometimes when I think about it, it's almost funny. I get a little upset, or maybe upset is not the right word, disappointed that I won't be able to explore space and the solar system and a greater universe in my lifetime, because we're held back by, in my opinion, outdated mindsets and they're cynical and not really investing in our collective capabilities. That when you see something like like a show, or read a book called The Expanse, or any other sort of sci-fi sort of future forward sort of thing, that I'll miss that, and there's nothing I can do to stop that or change that in my lifetime. And that's, not all of it, but that is something that whenever I think about that, it grinds my gears a little bit, because I would want to have that sense of exploration like past generations did when they sailed around an unexplored world and things like that. That there is a sense of exploration that I think that, is lost on our time, and it shouldn't be. And there's no reason why it should be. And there's no reason why we continue to devote trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars to means of destruction, whereas we could devote them to build systems that not only increase the quality of life for everyone, but also ascend us civilizationally to a higher tier. And when I think about that and viewed in that lens, there is like an endless well of purpose that kind of flows from that gets me engaged to continue to want to spend my time working on it. Because while I may not necessarily be able to solve that underlying problem, I might be able to give something back to this life that a subsequent generation can.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like you're making do with what you have, what you're given, and solve a problem. I think everyone, regardless of what they, do, can have an impact, regardless, like you mentioned, kind of the ripple, the ripple effect, kind of when you're working with a nonprofit. If you think you can't do something, or you think your contribution is kind of too small, or you can't achieve anything by yourself, you don't necessarily know that until you try, and then doing things numerous times and getting somewhere, because anything that is rewarding takes time and effort to achieve.
100%. Absolutely. And, it's also, and it's actually your hat that reminds me of this, where the hat says, "I am revolution." Technology is such a force multiplier of what a single human being can do, especially if they engage themselves in the right way, for the right reasons, for the right cause. That, you talk to thousands of people, and right now my voice is being heard by thousands of people from my office. And technology makes that happen. And technology is why we know who Malala Yousafzai is. That young girl in Afghanistan that kind of became just a rallying cry for I keep thinking like the better angels of our nature, as Lincoln said, but more of like, the things that, exist within us that are worth promoting and cherishing and fighting for. And we can extend ourselves, far greater than our own physical beings through technology. And it's been an ascendant course from there. And, a single person can now be a revolution if they want to be and want to kind of connect on, the right wavelengths to, promote the social change that they think, is worthy and will make the world a better place.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like twofold. I mean, you can amplify change and good, or you can use it to, promote negativity and hate, or use it for destruction.
You're not correct.
So.
You're not wrong. That is true.
So what's one thing that you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've turned around and utilized as a strength today?
It's funny that you ask that, because I am guilty of, I wouldn't say the word, probably shouldn't use the word guilty, that kind of traditional nerd stereotype that, you're good at technology, but people are difficult sort of thing. Yeah, I'm definitely afflicted by that. That's something that, information systems always made sense to me. People are way harder. And there's, I've always kind of been envious of people that have that instant emotional nuance that they can just read people and, oh, I know that's what they said, but they really mean this. And like, but wait, how do you do that? There's always kind of been that, that weakness in me that's I've constantly tried to harp on to make into a strength. And, my level of success, I think, has been pretty good. Now that I'm, in my 30s, have kind of gotten out of that old nerdy shell that was, I was in back in the day. But, it's kind of shifted my focus into much more of like a third person, large scale. Like, okay, so now understand how human beings work. Well, how do they work on a large scale? How does, the person is one thing. How do people work? And that's kind of continually amplified that focus of, realistically, I believe human beings operate at the core on need. And by satisfying, the core needs of people, or at least reducing them, it amplifies their own capability to be their best selves. If, just for an example, if no one ever had to pay for like water or electricity or food ever again, how much more money would they have in their pocket to, create something? Could they take maybe a job that gave them more free time to work on their art or their music or whatever other initiatives that they felt worthy of their lives? I think yes. And, they kind of focus on using technology to like eradicate need. I don't think could have come without having like a certain sense of struggle to, grasp, people as themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, for me personally, I think I gotten a lot better at understanding situations and dealing with people differently of all walks of life by the experiences, bad and good, in terms of developing and strengthening my emotional IQ and empathy. So I think it's like one of those soft skills that really helps you understand what makes people tick and kind of create a camaraderie and create more of a unison and really understand, like, somebody can be going through something and you have to be knowledgeable of that, but you can still kind of overcome that, understand them, and then, work to whatever that thing that you're working on together towards.
Yeah. And I want to harp on what you said there, empathy. I feel like empathy is a really underappreciated currency in today's world. Almost like social media makes us colder. Like the first rule on like a Reddit thread is like, remember the person. I think that's really smart, because we forget that. And we forget that, okay, maybe this person's being a jerk today, but maybe they're not a jerk. Maybe, maybe their dog's sick or the kid's sick, or, they're something bad happened. Maybe they got fired. You never know what's going on in someone's head. And we make snap judgments. Oh, this person is XYZ, or I didn't like that interaction, so I'm going to go view this person through a negative lens. Whereas a sense of empathy, it almost kind of gets that like venerable wisdom of like, an elder that you might respect in your life. It's like, well, let's hold on a second. Take a minute, let's see what's going on, give him some opportunity, give him some space to kind of be comfortable in the moment. and they're human too. They've complex lives, and let's be a little bit more empathetic about what could be making their behavior, their personality, what it is in that moment in time. And that's an incredibly powerful tool, as you mentioned, that I think is, we would do all of ourselves a service to, be mindful of as, we go through our day-to-day interactions, not just ourselves, but also like externally, politically and socially, in these times.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of taking a step back and like putting that into the equation. I mean, I've had somebody in terms of brain health and kind of a focus person on where he helps, executives make better decisions that aren't driven by emotion. So if you aren't developing that emotional IQ, you can have a loaded response on face value. But if you take a step back, really analyze the situation or scenario and take the emotion out of it also, and then look at the facts, what's going on, what they're dealing with, what you're dealing with, you can really come to a better decision and conclusion if you take that kind of mindset.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Very well said.
So what's one piece of advice you can leave with the audience, personal or professional?
I think it would probably cover both personal and professional. It's the old adage that if you continue to invest your time in it, and if you really believe in it and you really put your time and effort into learning it and investing in yourself, you will succeed in one way or another. It may not be exactly how you thought you might succeed, but it'll come out in different ways. And it's really easy to get discouraged. And I do fundamentally believe that like defeat with something like over time, defeat doesn't really come from what others say about you. It's what you say about you. It's, kicking out those, the haters and the doubts in your own head to say like, oh, this is so hard, I'll never get it. Oh, this is a waste of my time. And, there are some projects that probably aren't worth, pursuing. It's not that everything is worth pursuing, but if it's something that you really honestly do care about, hit it and don't give up. Like that is, I taught myself software development. There's a lot of times I thought about kicking the bucket and say, absolutely not, I'm done with this. But I didn't. And, now it's, my livelihood. And there's times when I thought that this project would never go anywhere and just be laughed at. And I said, no, I'm not going to entertain that. And I continue to stick with it. And, sometimes you might need to get up for a weekend and just go for a drive or, hang out with friends and forget about it for a few days to let your brain refresh, but come back to it and continue to swing that hammer. And you'll make something from it that, it's said so often by people that have succeeded that it is almost cliche, but it is true. And it has been proven true time and time and time and time and time and time again, that, you got to find that well and find that well of drive. But if you can, you will manifest something worthwhile from it.
Yeah, I agree. And any endeavor is never kind of, just, a losing effort. Even if you failed at something, you take the learnings and then either pivot or invent whatever you need to reinvent in order to apply it to whatever you're trying to do. And I think success isn't, a stationary destination, or at least not for me. I mean, it's always a moving target based on your current interests, where you at in life, other variables. So I think that's also important as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, the journey is definitely part of it. And it might shift you from where you thought you'd be going, but you might like that new position better. You might meet allies or, friends or relationships or connections, or learn new skills that may not necessarily be, really important in that moment, but might come really in handy later. And, that passion to keep learning and improving yourself, a kind of a doctrine of continual improvement, so to speak, will always do you a service, even if it doesn't necessarily, appear that way at that time, as opposed to sitting down and just, watching TV and just vegging yourself out when you're done from work every day. And sometimes that's okay. But, you get the life you invest in, just like we get the society we invest in. And, when you continue to love yourself enough and believe yourself in yourself enough to continue to build and improve. I mean, look, I'll challenge anyone to try that. Then look back 3 years from when you started and tell me that your life is not better.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I've said on my show and other interviews, I think the complacency is the death of innovation. So if you become stagnant,
totally, I like that line.
Stop redefining, stop learning. You start dying in a way. I mean, like you said, you're self-taught, self-made. I had to pivot because of 2008 recession into digital marketing and learn it myself, and then eventually get Fortune 500 clients, director role, start my own company. And when you told me maybe in college, okay, you're going to go this different route, I was saying, no, I would never believe you. But taking that leap of faith and doing it out of necessity and keep learning and redefining yourself opens up doors and different avenues, both of interest and, potential opportunities as well.
Definitely. Look at you now. I mean, like, who would have thought like we'll be doing podcasts? But, it's again, new connections, new experiences, new knowledge, and complacency is the death of innovation. I might borrow that. That's very good. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know where I got it. It's not, you can borrow that. I didn't create that. I forget where I got it. I would probably Google it and maybe attribute it to the original source. But it's so true. So I always love saying that.
And I would guess the original source probably doesn't care who it's attributed to as long as it's said, because he's right or she's right. And it's there's a lot of capability out there, a lot of of tools and methods that we can engage in ourselves now and others to kind of keep this ball rolling. And if it continues, hell, maybe I'll prove myself wrong, and maybe I will get to leave Earth's atmosphere and space tourism. Who knows? That's like definitely very high on my bucket list. But and there's stuff like that we could do as long as we continue to push progress forward, for ourselves and for others.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of taking initiative and solving a problem yourself and not looking for others to do it, regardless of what it is or how big or small it is. And kind of being the change in whatever you're looking to undertake. Because if you start waiting, okay, I want to do this, or I want to solve this, or I have this pain point, somebody will come up with that idea and solve it, or start a company that would address it. You may be waiting a long time, or that idea that you had may have, impacted and changed the world. But if you don't run with it and take that initiative and that leap, it's never going to happen.
No, it won't. So totally true.
So I really appreciate you jumping on today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Sure. You can go to nextgiantleap.org.org. And what that website is it breaks down this entire project. The framework that the project promotes is called the Universal Energy. And you can learn all about how it works. You can read it online. You can buy a print copy of the book. That's very detailed graphics and colors and things like that. But if you don't want to buy anything, you don't have to. You can read it for free online. I insist always on giving a free copy away. And you just click on the Universal Energy link in the upper left-hand corner, or the print copy in the upper left-hand corner to get the full work. But the front page will give you the full breakdown of how it works, what it does, and how it can make the world a better place. Works on desktop, mobile, 100%. And I built it to be, very accessible. You don't need a technical background to read it. It's just really about showing how technology can make all of our lives better.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thanks.
This podcast has been brought to you by Nova Zora Digital. Find out how Nova Zora Digital can help your company grow online. Learn more at novazoradigital.com. Until next time, all you digital savages.